Greetings, greetings. Welcome to the first installment of the Cultural Renaissances podcast, The Malcolm Effect. I'm your host and founder, Momodou Taal. I was just thinking to myself, wouldn't it be so cool if every time you said your name or you introduced yourself, it was followed by a round of applause? So, for example, hey, what's your name? My name is Alfred. What's yours? My name is Momodou. And then you heard, or to kind of make it more personalized to myself as someone who often claims the Jamaican culture or reps hard for Jamaican culture, especially the bashment and dancehall scene. If, for example, I said, my name is Momodou, and then you heard, so here we are, the story thus far. I kind of felt it's of some importance that the first episode be a bit about me, because many a times, or people are going to come across me through social media. You see in the Gambia and you see what I'm up to, you see what I'm doing on a daily basis and the kind of things I like to put out. But this podcast, you could say, is a summation thus far, or is the result of my life journey so far. So where do we begin? Obviously, my name is Momodou Taal. People know me as the Gambian on social media. My name is MM. Some people know me as MM, which I'll go into where that name came from. Being born in the Gambia in 93, so that makes me of today. As of today, I'm 26 years old. I was born in the Gambia. So from my mum's side, I trace back my lineage, not even too far, to be fair. I trace back, my mum's grandfather was the first president of the Gambia, Sir Dawda Jawara. He was someone who became the first president after Gambia had gained its independence, and it was the end of colonial rule. Again, I do hope to do a podcast on just him, because this short intro will never do him justice. He passed away last year, and we are commemorating 1 year since his passed. I pray that he eternally rests in peace. Amen. From my dad's side, I trace back my lineage, or we trace our ancestry back to a man called Sheikh Umar Foti Tal. He was someone who he was an Islamic scholar, a spiritual master, and someone who physically fought against the colonial powers, the Imperial French at the time. He took up arms and fought against them. He was kind of ran into, after being chased by the French army, he was kind of cornered into a cave. And they never found his body, and they never found him after that, but they believe he was killed in that battle. Me saying this now will never do him justice. And again, in the future, I do hope to go into his life much more. Again, he's a figure that is well respected in the Gambia and in West Africa, to be fair, and also in the Islamic world. But fast forward, so being born in 93, I then moved to London when about 3 months old, with my mother and father. However, it was my mother who later ends up raising me mainly. Majority of the time was raised by my mother. Growing up in London, it's a very interesting tale, in the sense that some of the stuff, when I look back now, I feel like, how the hell did I go through all of that stuff by the age of 13, So I remember being 12 years old, and I was a very naughty kid. And I feel like that cheekiness is still present in my personality today. By the age of 12, I was arrested when I was 12 years old. What was the story behind that? Me and my friends thought it was a great idea to run up inside the shop and basically rob the shop and trash it. Me being so small at the time, listen, short guys lives matters. Yeah, even though I'm not that short now, I'm quite average height. But at the time, I was 4'7". And I know I was 4'7" because when I had arrived to the police station, two things. I couldn't see over the counter when the sergeant was booking me in. And then obviously when you get booked in, they measure you and, amongst taking your DNA and all this kind of stuff, doing a swab, and et cetera, et cetera. So I remember being 4'7". And I feel like when you're so short, especially at the time people are going through puberty, and the onset of puberty is different and varies from different people. So I found that me being so short, I had to overcompensate. Short man syndrome is real, guys. It's very real. So I was overcompensating, and that overcompensation manifested itself in me trying to be the loudest because I feel like there's a certain presence that comes when you are physically big. When you're physically tall, you automatically are ascribed a certain presence because people will see you and think, I might not want to mess with you. However, when you're small, it's quite the opposite. You're like a sitting duck in many ways because you're the target. You can become a target and you can become subject to bullying. So to escape that, you overcompensate. And by that overcompensation manifested in ways that I would just like, if people say, let's do this, I'm going to do it. That could be, okay, you go and rob this person. I'll be the first on the front line. So yes, I'm going to do it. You go and say on a diss track to somebody, you mention them by name. I'm going to do it because I want that notoriety. I want to be given the kudos and the props between my friends. But I digress. We'll go into my spell in the music industry and how I wanted to become a musician, and we'll go into all of that. But for now, just the circumstances that surrounded my arrest. Whew. So, looking back, it's so vivid in my mind right now, but it's hilarious, man. We ran up into a shop, about maybe 15 of us. I'm the youngest. I'm like 11, 12 years old. Everyone's like 16, 15. And everyone's running in and we just grab. This person's getting that. This person's getting this, drinks, you name it. I don't know why. I try to go to the till and grab stuff from the till, which later proves to be the reason I get caught. So as everyone's in the front of the shop, all my friends grabbing certain bits, I'm going to get the till. As I'm trying to get the till, the shopkeeper, he grabs me and he's like, I'm not letting you go, basically. I've caught one. You're going to be with me till the police come. I tried to get free. He was not letting go of me. My friends, they later realized. So as my friends ran out the shop, they must have realized maybe 2 months later, maybe like 10 minutes later, they realized, oh my God, where's MM? So they come back, try to get me. They smash up the shop, but I was not. And well, basically, the guy was not letting me go. So that guy gave me a good beating to my face several occasions, several times. But, then police came, they arrested me and took me to the police station. And boy, I was thinking to myself, my life is over. But long story short, thankfully, it was given an NFA, which is known as a no further action. So there was no charges pressed. So I don't have a criminal record, but that was just an advent in my life. So I hope that story gives you kind of an insight to the kind of kid I was. That's just one example. Another example would be when I got into beef with certain other areas, I was very active and I was very much of a loudmouth, which caused me to get beaten up. No, I wouldn't say several times, but I got into a few fights and my friends got into a few fights. But by this time, living in the estate I did, and this is in London, this is in East London, Stratford. E15, but it's an area called Thatched House. But by this time, we're a group of friends, similar age, not much to do. It wasn't a thing. I hesitate to say it was a gang, and I do strongly dislike the mischaracterization of the news, particularly say this is a gangs. Undoubtedly, there are gangs that exist. But when I think of gangs, especially be in the UK or elsewhere, I think of an organized crime. This was not organized crime. This is what 1-2 people selling weed. But that's not the purpose of why we became friends. We became friends because we were similar age group, lived in walking distance of each other, and this is what became our friendship group. That turned into a music group, which was called the Funeral Soldiers. And I was putting out music on MySpace. And to be fair, at the time, maybe my MySpace had like anything between 30 to 40,000 views. It was doing very well. We were putting out good music. I had a home studio. The rest of it. The flip side to that is, whilst we're progressing musically, there's another area. This is happening at the same time. It's also doing music. So they're sending shots at us. We're sending shots at them. We're calling them out. They're calling us out. And this is all done through music. Quite quickly, this turned into a physical encounter with each other. And then, people got beaten up, people got slapped, lots of physical encounters back and forth. We'd run to their ends, they'd run to our ends. And it got really intense. By age of 12, 13, I've had at least 1 or 2 friends have been stabbed. No fatalities at this point, but they had been stabbed, and it was getting quite, as you can imagine, it was becoming quite intense for this. I remember being quite distinctly being around a similar age, being shot at. It might have been a replica gun the way it sounded, but literally, I just, again, the memory is so vivid in my mind. We're chilling outside my friend's house, a group of boys, or like maybe 20 boys, 10, 20 boys maybe, walk past us and they see us, they say, "What are you looking at?" The usual thing ensued. Next minute, I see something get pulled out, which looked like a gun, and we're just running and they're chasing us through the ends, and it's just crazy. This is madness. By the way, I'm like 12, 13 at this point. My mum, God bless her, is seeing what is happening to me, what's happening to her son, the environment that this is, the environment that I'm being raised up in, and it's coming to a point where she has to make a decision. So she decided that she's going to move me to Birmingham, which later then does become probably one of the best decisions that my mum has made for me that I can recollect, because what moving to Birmingham did allowed me to, take a different focus in my life, which I will explain later on. I moved to Birmingham, and shortly after I moved to Birmingham, one of my closest friends at the time, Paul Erahan, tag name was Hellraiser. He is murdered, and another close friend of mine is stabbed 6 times. And this is like literally shortly after I moved to Birmingham. So my mother literally dodged the bullet in that regard. So I find myself in Birmingham, January 2007. And for me, it felt like a fall from grace, because I'm going from an environment that I'm known, I'm popular in school, I'm popular, we had hood fame, people did a buzz around my name, my tag name, which was Mental, play on my last name and me being crazy. But yeah, it was hype and I enjoyed it, then going to being not knowing anybody in this new city. And as much as I love my Birmingham people, I hated the accent. I actually remember at the time saying to myself, I'm going to make a conscious effort to never let me catch this accent and never let me speak like them. I still love you guys, don't worry. So going through school, it was like history repeating itself. In the sense, I was just getting up to the same crap again, being naughty. I got excluded from school a couple of times, me getting into fights with people. Again, when you're small, again, you have to overcompensate and make sure that people cannot take the piss with you. But I kind of, looking on hindsight, I felt my mum, because she didn't know what to do with me, in the sense that she's like, this guy he does get good grades. He does very well in school academically. It's just the other stuff. So clearly I had the aptitude. I just didn't have the level of focus which was required. Until there's a few pinnacle moments in my life, which I attribute to the way I am today. And the first one, not the first one, but one of them being the election of Barack Obama. I remember when he announced his candidacy, and I was thinking to myself, oh my God, who's this person that is a great orator and is clearly, as a black person as well in America. And, I saw myself in him in many ways. I saw, wow, I had always had an interest in politics and history, even from a young age. And I thought, wow, this, me studying civil rights movements to now seeing, Martin Luther King's dream manifest, almost as it were. Even though I have a huge criticism of Barack Obama today, at the time I was young and naive and didn't know how politics worked. So I see Barack Obama, I'm like, you know what? I want to make something of myself. So I Google United Kingdom youth politics. And then I found there's something called the Youth Parliament. And I'm like, wow, this sounds super interesting. Like, I wonder how I can get involved. I want to get involved in politics. I remember saying at the time, I'm going to be the first black prime minister of the UK. How naive I was. And now I don't even aspire to that anyway. But at the time, that was my aspiration, because Obama was going to be the first black president in America. So I remember reading his autobiography, Dreams from My Father, which I still think is an amazing book and much better than his second book, The Audacity of Hope, which I think is the former he writes as himself, the latter he writes as a career politician, and it loses its authenticity and sincerity. But I digress. So I Googled United Kingdom Youth Parliament. I find there's a youth parliament in Birmingham, and it mirrors the actual parliament. So for example, if you have 5 MPs for Birmingham, because each constituent, like each locality is assigned an MP, you have 5 MYPs, 5 members of youth parliament. So I go around, I get my name on the ballot, and I campaign on manifesto of knife crime. to combat knife crime, which is also an issue in Birmingham, as well as London, as well as every major city in the UK. So as I'm going around to get votes, I'm in year 10 now, so this is 15 years old. I go to one of my classrooms and I say to the people, oh, can you vote for me? As was the case, is that your own school would back you. So you normally get people backing you from your school. So I was like, wicked. Went down every vote. I gave a little speech at assembly, and then I went to classrooms to get votes throughout the day. This is where it all went wrong. One of the kids, a white boy, who actually was my friend before, or we had no beef anyway, said, I'm going to look for the white person to vote for. I said, there's me trying to be diplomatic, yeah? I'm like to myself, what do you mean you're going to vote for the white person? I'm British too. That's what I said. He said, if a dog is born... I can't even... It's still shocking to me. A man said, if a dog is born in a stable, it doesn't make it a horse. I was there. I was gobsmacked. I was like, wow. So as you can imagine, I kind of left it and I confronted him and it kicked off. And then that turned into another whole drama. I had a fight with him. Then the next day I had like several guys much older than me, like maybe like 17, 18, 19, in their 20s even, come to my school. They're all white guys with baseball bats and dog chains looking for who Momodou is to beat me up. Stress. You'd think that I've left that life behind, and I actually had made active steps to kind of transform. But sometimes you just can't live the hood life. It just follows you everywhere. So yeah, my friend next day said, okay, we can't let this happen. Everyone bring weapons to school. Everyone brought weapons to school, and it really got intense. But by the grace of God, I won the election and I become a member of youth parliament. But I remember after this, this was all going on and police were getting involved, a teacher who I had a lot of respect for said to me, Momodou, you need to be more like Martin and less like Malcolm. At this time, I'd only ever come across Malcolm X through school, and the school creates a dichotomy, which I know to be a false dichotomy, of this peace-loving Negro, this peace-loving guy, Martin, who everyone loves, and he spoke about peace and peaceful demonstration and peaceful resistance against this black supremacist, this radical Malcolm. And I thought, yeah, that's all I ever knew. So I thought, I'm not someone who's a radical at the time anyway. I'm still not, arguably, I'm not a radical in the sense of promoting violence in any shape or form, but I'm not a pacifist either. But hopefully my views will come through more throughout this, these series. So I get told, be more like Malcolm, be more like Martin. I'm like, cool. Let me look into Malcolm a bit more now. My friend buys me an autobiography for my 15th or 16th birthday, and that was where my life literally changed. I literally fell in love with this man because I thought, how sincere was this person? And this is even, by the way, his Islam wasn't even a thing that drew me to him, even though he was a devout Muslim. That didn't even play a role for me. Why? Because I wasn't practicing at the time. Even though my family are Muslim, it was never forced upon us. I had no connection to Islam, to be honest, at that point. It was his kind of stance on justice, his, talking truth to power, his unflinching and unwavering kind of, speeches and way he spoke, and his intellect and all of the above. I would hopefully do a podcast dedicated to Malcolm X's autobiography and to the man himself and breaking it down to people. Because I still get people asking me, like, why do you love Malcolm so much? But again, that deserves a whole podcast in and of itself. So I finished the autobiography and I'm like, yes, I'm infatuated with this person. Alongside that, then YouTube is still, hadn't just been made, but YouTube wasn't as big as it was today. So I Googled Malcolm X. And then one of the first speeches that come up is, who taught you to hate yourself?
Who taught you, please, who taught you to hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin to such extent that you bleach to get like the white man? Who taught you to hate the shape of your nose and the shape of your lips? Who taught you to hate yourself from the top of your head to the soles of your feet? Who taught you to hate your own kind? Who taught you to hate the race that you belong to? So much so that you don't want to be around each other. No, before you come asking Mr. Muhammad, does he teach hate? You should ask yourself, who taught you to hate being what God gave you?
I tell you why that was so powerful for me growing up. As Skepta so eloquently and succinctly says in his famous line, I think it's the song with Wizkid, he says, "When I was younger, being African was a diss. It sounds like you need help saying my surname, miss." And that is a reality that many African dark skin, particularly African dark skin kids, young people can relate to, of my generation at least. I mean, now we know that what it means to be black nowadays is associated, is associated with West African. So the cultural expressions of West Africa, particularly Nigeria, is synonymous with blackness, especially for those in the diaspora. But when I was growing up, that wasn't the case. Being black, the cultural expressions of the Caribbean, particularly Jamaica, was what it meant to be black. So everyone said wagwan, everyone knew what jerk chicken, what of jerk chicken and curry mutton and, oxtail and all these things. And the opposite was true in the sense that being from Africa was seen as an insult. So naturally, you put on a brave face. But I know, I can only speak for myself, but I know many people in my position, many people in a similar age range to me at the time can attest to the fact that they had internalized insecurities. The insecurities that, so for example, the kinky hair, the African nose, the African lips, these things were not seen as desirable in society. And this crept in and permeated school life. For example, we all know the lighties got all the attention, dark skinned guys didn't. And naturally, you put on a brave face and not say anything. And I think at that age, you don't even have the language of expression. You can't even express yourself. You don't even know what's happening. But all you do know is that you internalize self-hatred. And I know I, for one, definitely did. So when I heard Who Taught You How to Hate Yourself by Malcolm, I was like, this is it. This is actually it. This is what I needed to hear. And it set myself off, I was thinking to myself, if you thought I was confident before with my short ass, you guys wait for me now. Now I'm not just overly compensating. Now I'm empowered. Now I'm an empowered short person. Again, I'm not short. Okay, I'm average height now. This is back in the day. I was a late bloomer. So hearing that and being, having the autobiography by my side, I'm empowered by Malcolm X's message. I'm like, yeah, I'm ready to confront the world. I'm a member of youth parliament now. There was something still missing. And that was clearly a connection to the divine. And then the same friend that bought me the autobiography was a Muslim. And it was Ramadan. I was in year 11 at the time. That makes about 16. This was going to be my first Ramadan that I would have fasted completely, or even taken Ramadan quite seriously. I mean, we all know those people. We would, say we're fasting, but when we go to school, we eat, and then we break our fast when we come home. So I was taking it quite seriously this year. Due to the kind of factors that led up to that, it was just kind of, okay, Malcolm X's Islam intrigued me, but also I kind of felt I needed a connection to, I always believed in God. I didn't know what religion to believe in at the time, to be fair. I even had a brief spell of looking to other religions. So I looked into like Christianity, I looked into Buddhism and other religions at the time. And none of them really made sense to me, except for two. Or none of them really appealed to me, sorry, because, what makes sense to me might not make sense to other people. But the two particular religions or way of life that appealed to me. And that was Rastafarianism, because I was a heavy listener, and I still am, of reggae music, and I love Bob Marley and the message he put across. And then it was Islam. And then I thought, I kind of weighed them both up and thought, let me go for Islam. Because what I kind of know anyway, being from that background. So I kind of, YouTube Islamic videos, and then I kind of get into practicing the faith, and I want to, learn a bit more. Then my friend goes to me at the time, okay, since we're not fasting, do you want to pray in school? So we start praying in school together. Now I'm getting it mixed up. I'm not sure if it was before, or I think in my mind, I believe it was around the same time I was started going to a mosque. The mosque was, for those who don't know, those who don't know this term, is like it's called a Salafi mosque, and Salafi for many people are those people who take like a literal interpretation of Islam, and they focus a lot on the outward manifestations of Islam. So, but however, they're quite harsh. So I remember like this is it. If I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it properly. These were the days of BlackBerry Messenger (BBM). I delete all the girls off Facebook. I delete girls of my not Instagram wasn't even around of my BlackBerry Messenger. I thought to myself, this is I'm gonna take it seriously. I no longer had interactions with females. But did it stop listening? I stopped listening to music. It was very much like it just wasn't me though. But I thought this is the way religion has to be. But as quickly as many others do, quickly burnt out. Quite rapidly, actually. I burnt out for, I can't do this thing anymore, man. But not even music, not even a dance. Like, come on, man, I'm black. Music just permeates my soul. It's literally nourishment for the soul. And obviously, I know people might say, oh my God, how can you say that? But no, it is. And those who are non-Muslim, those who are Muslim know that, and those who are non-Muslim have written about it. So I kind of leave that, and my friend tells me, he showed me another way, and this is the way of what he taught me was traditional Islam. And then I thought, you know what, this makes sense. Because even when I was with the Salafi movement, I had questions that their answers were not sufficient for me. I had questions about, different aspects of the faith, and it's just like, stop questioning, don't question. You're going to be like these people, God punishes people who question, just, listen and obey. And I was like, that doesn't really sit well with me. So deuces. So I leave the Salafi movement or Salafi interpretation of Islam, and I embrace another school, which is a bit more, it's got a legacy going back to the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, peace be upon him. So I kind of going through the motions of that. I'm studying my faith more, I'm learning my faith more, and I come to the decision that I must, if I want to take this faith very seriously and understand it for myself, I must embark on the journey of studying it for myself. And that's why I was about 17, 18 and decided to myself, I'm going to dedicate my life, or dedicate a significant portion of my life, to studying Islam. So long story short, I come home saying, Mom, I'm not going to university. I'm going to go to desert in Mauritania and study Islam. She says, you're crazy. Those who know African parents, as religious as they are or as Muslim as they are, you can't come home and just say that. You can't come home and say you're not going to go to university. You're not going to university and you're going to become a Islamic scholar. You can do that afterwards, but you got to get your degree first. So I thought, okay, why not? I get my degree in law. I graduate, and then I move to Egypt to study Islam full time. Again, I want to go into these things much more again, but it's just a brief intro. There's so many factors that surrounded to me moving to Egypt, what's going on in my mind at the time, who I'm in contact with. But I have to say, there's many pivotal people in my life, and I'm going to do separate podcasts with them. I feel it's very important that I highlight the influences in my life, because we live in a time where people claim that they're self-made. And again, these things it's not, oh, you are self-made or you're not self-made. We don't live in a world of binary. There's nuance. But as Dr. Cornel West says, being self-made is somewhat, it ignores all the external influences that have caused you and have aided you to where you are today, be it from family or society, negatively or positively. But either way, you don't exist in a vacuum, you exist in this world. And I feel like I'll be doing a disservice to those influences on me if I don't kind of highlight them and bring them in. So yeah, watch this space. I've missed out so much. I do hope that either when I write my autobiography, I include much more detail, or in subsequent kind of episodes, I include a bit more detail and flesh out some of the, I know people love a tea and gossip, so there's more to be said. So until then, follow me on my social media at The Gambian on Instagram, cultural renaissance, cultural.renaissance, cultural with a K on Instagram. Also, follow the Malcolm Effect podcast on all major streaming platforms. Peace out.